Hey everybody, welcome back to Movie Master, where we rank, review, trailer react, and talk news about movies, TV shows, and sometimes video games. Now, today on the channel, I'm going to be reviewing Spider-Man Far From Home, released in 2019. Now, this film was a direct sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming and Avengers, and continued the story left off on Avengers Endgame. This movie is pretty good, but what do you guys think of my rating? What do I think of it overall? Check out on the review, starting now with the good. So, the good for the film, I'd say the casting. The casting was brilliantly well done, in my opinion. The actors they chose, Jake Gyllenhaal, they even brought back ones like Tom Holland, Zendaya. They so expanded on the acting roles. They take it to different heights. And I really think they use it well. They bring back the characters from the first film. Most of them come back, and Flash has that weird era where he has a weird, ugly goatee, a dumb-looking goatee, and a bad-looking haircut. And he has an era where he just likes to vlog. So it was a very weird thing they did with his character for that movie. But it was nonetheless, the casting was brilliant. Jake Gyllenhaal was casted brilliantly as Mysterio, and I would love to one day see him return, and maybe if we can, in a more comic booky look. So yeah, nonetheless, I was very excited to see what would happen with the character, and I was very excited to see how they did it with this character, where he was good and then bad, and he manipulated Peter because he just lost Iron Man, and then the third film he got his identity revealed, all that, and he got manipulated again. But the cast in this movie is brilliant, and I really thought they did well with all the actors they chose. And I would say for the next bit is, well, the acting. The acting in this film is brilliant. I really think Tom Holland and that all take it to a new level of acting. The acting's improved a bit from the last film, and I do like how they incorporate the Peter and MJ kind of love romance they included within this film. I really think it was the acting they did with this was really well done, and I think it was well polished performances of their characters. Jake Gyllenhaal again, it was nice seeing him again, and it was nice seeing Samuel L. Jackson and Kobe Smulders reprise their roles as Maria Hill and Nick Fury, but turned out to be Skrulls, because they were actually those, and it was so hilarious watching them be Skrulls instead, and it was so unique. And then it was revealed that they were actually off-world for years by the time No Way Home is set. But yeah, nonetheless, I'm very happy with what the acting was doing. It was very brilliant. I think they did well. Jake Gyllenhaal was amazing in the role of Mysterio, and he was such an interesting villain. He wasn't my favorite Spider-Man villain, but I did like him. He kind of had one issue that I'll get into later that kind of bumped him down and didn't make him as good as his predecessor, but it felt like it bumped up from the previous movie a bit, from a street level one who was sympathetic to one who had no sympathy, pretty much. So yeah. Next after that is the action scenes. The action scenes in this movie are honestly quite phenomenal. I think they're brilliant. They are really well shot scenes, and overall, yeah, the action scenes are brilliantly well shot. They shoot it so differently from the other Spider-Man movies. They make the action look so much different. Flow well, but flow similar, but feel so different in look and design. And feel different. Like, it feels really different. And the action scenes are honestly quite good. I'd say they're not on par with the first two Spider-Man films, but I think the action scenes are quite good. So, next I'd say another thing I really loved about the film, besides the casting, the acting, and the action scenes, which I still say were actually quite good, was Peter and MJ. This was brilliant. I thought their relationship was handled very well. It felt a bit off because randomly Peter now likes MJ instead of Liz Allen. So they did start him off with the original crush he had in the comics, Liz Allen. And then likely it would be cool if they went like they went him. He fell in love with Gwen Stacy or Betty Brant in the next trilogy, and then he lost Gwen Stacy and all that. That'd be a unique storyline. Maybe we could see that, and then at the end he would get back with Mary Jane or something. Maybe we can see that. And maybe even the Kraven the Hunter film will be canon to the MCU, because it'd be nice seeing that canon. So we can see spin-offs and see him hunt down Spider-Man. So yeah. With that done, the MJ and Peter is so well done in my opinion. I love the way it's done. It's done very brilliantly, and it feels nice, and I love the way they act together. Their chemistry, like Kirsten Dunst's and Tobey Maguire, felt so good. The only flaw with Peter and MJ's relationship in the Spider-Man films, the writing was terrible for them. But this time, they just make the writing so good. They make it feel a tiny bit realistic, but not as good as, in my opinion, the Emma Stone one. But it still feels like an improvement. And it's still cool. It's really cool seeing this couple come back together, and I really liked them together. And it was really nice expanding on her character and showing that she was more happier around Peter. And yeah, it was really cool seeing that, and I really loved it. The ending. Now, the ending was another thing I found quite unique and different. It changed things up. The final swing they brought back after about one movie, two movies. They had skipped it on. Spider-Man 1 and 2. The Spider-Man 1 ended on the final swing. Spider-Man 2 ended on one. Spider-Man 3 opened with the final swing scene, but ended with none. Because, well, yeah. And then The Amazing Spider-Man ended with a final swing scene, but Spider-Man 3 and The Amazing Spider-Man 2 didn't. Homecoming, neither didn't either. So 3 movies we went without a final swing scene. 3 we did, 3 we didn't. So yeah, and I was very happy that this one re-included it as the 4th film to have a final swing scene. And so yeah, this was the 5th film, because well then after Spider-Man 1, 2, The Amazing Spider-Man, and Into the Spider-Verse, this one had a final swing scene too. So then the next film after would have one like that too. So the ending was really brilliant, and I thought it was amazing. And the fact that he gets his identity revealed as Spider-Man is shocking, because you never think that would happen. And then it happens, and it shakes up his world. Which means it's really awesome, because, well, now Peter Parker's world will never be the same. And we would have to wait until Spider-Man No Way Home to see the conclusion of that story. Moving on to In the Middle. Now, this is the stuff I found alright, but I don't think is bad, but I found quite stilted when I saw the film. The Snap. The Snap is a big event in the MCU. For those who have not seen Avengers Infinity War, during the film, Thanos ends up getting all 6 Infinity Stones and snapping away half of life. So yeah, not only were the ones that he killed, he also snapped away half of life, decimating half the universe. And then yeah, unfortunately, yeah, 5 years went by, and unfortunately they were gone for 5 years, and some family members passed away, not getting to see their loved ones, and they didn't get to see them again because they were dusted. Many people were dusted, and then soon they came back from the snap, and thanks to the help of the Avengers, but unfortunately came at a few costs. One reason they did is, unfortunately, yeah, Black Widow and many other heroes died during the event to save them. Tony Stark died, taking out all the villains, because, well, yeah. And now, luckily, there is indeed a variant timeline where Thanos never existed, so that meant the world was saved. The Guardians still did get formed, obviously without Gamora. Gamora in the crosshairs, Gamora was the Guardians of the Galaxy were formed without Gamora and all that. Luckily they didn't get their hands on the Power Stone, and luckily Thanos never assembled it. Yeah, so it's likely Ronan was still defeated. Thanos never came back because, well, he was dusted. And yeah, the Avengers never had to deal with Infinity War, and they got to live out a more normal life. Iron Man didn't sacrifice himself. He got to live into an old age, likely in this alternate timeline. It would be cool to see this variant timeline where Thanos vanished from, because they show us ones we don't really need to see, instead of showing us the ones I kind of want to see. Because we see the Loki timeline, that's the only other movie timeline we see get explored from. So it would be cool to see him return to that timeline. But yeah. So yeah, the snap, I didn't like how it was called Blub Blub. It sounds weird and a really silly name to call it. And yes, I find it alright, but I just feel like the snap is handled like such a joke. It was a big MCU event, and the fact that it's handled like a joke is just complete madness and silly in my opinion. It's stupid how that's actually made handled more like a joke rather than a serious event. I get that's the way it does it, but just, yeah. I guess I get what it was trying to do to get all the happiness, darkness out and fill it more with happy mode. But I just didn't like that. Now, one thing I did not really like was this ties together Iron Man and the villain of the film. Now, Iron Man, as I said, Iron Man kicked off the MCU. Many times it's been said over the internet, Iron Man was the kickoff of the MCU. And he started the Infinity Saga, and it ended with Spider-Man Far From Home. Now, I can see why Iron Man was such an integral part of the story, because, well, yeah, he was the entire Infinity Saga. So you start with him and end it. It's a narrative. It's like it's like 3 whole books ending, and then a new set of books being made. So the next series will likely follow, one plotline will follow who will be the next Iron Man, which is what Far From Home set up for Phase 4. Phase 4 was all about the multiverse, which will likely continue on and continue on possibly into Phase 5. Who knows? But yeah, and we may even get a Secret Wars where it finishes with all the multiversal versions of some heroes, like some of them cameoing from other worlds, to finish off the fight. Maybe even seeing Ben Affleck return as Daredevil, Ghost Rider. This may not happen, but I'm just throwing the idea out there. But nonetheless, yeah, overall, Iron Man, yeah, the Iron Man is handled too much. I agree that, yes, it's good that you tie in the hero, but not that many of the MCU movies tie in with the hero, but it's kind of annoying we get him in the film, and it kind of clouds the film's story. That's why I don't think Movie Flame is good with that video. You need to understand a bit of Spider-Man, to when you break down one of his movies, you need to understand his character. High Top Films is the best person to go watch him when he does essays. Because when Movie Flame does his essays on Harry Potter, he understands Harry Potter. He understands it. If you've seen Movie Flame, he does Harry Potter content. He understands the world. He understands the characters. You can see that. And even when he trashed the 8th book, which I think was all right, it just felt like, yes, he understood that world and its characters. Spider-Man, he doesn't understand it. He understands the MCU, but he doesn't understand Spider-Man as its own character. The MCU, Spider-Man isn't it, but just because he's the MCU Spider-Man, Spider-Man's his own character in his own right. Like all the characters in the MCU, but he understands most of them. The only one I think he misunderstands is Spider-Man. You could tell he doesn't understand Spider-Man. He says he's watched the films, but he doesn't understand his character. Yes, I look like a 14-year-old, but he doesn't understand the character. My teacher is only around his late 20s or 30s, late 20s or early 30s, and he knows much more about Spider-Man than Movie Flame does. In my opinion, I like Movie Flame's channel, I love his videos, but that's the only video I never liked. Him saying Far From Home was the best. Was that because I'm a loyal fan of the Raimi films? No, it isn't. I love Holland Spider-Man. I even don't mind Andrew Garfield. I even like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. But this movie just doesn't have good writing. It doesn't really have that much good writing. And a lot of other fans agree with me. High Top Films, yeah, I agree with Caden. My friend Caden said, yes, he's right. The villain was good. But overall, the writing was terrible for the film. And the next bit I'm going to get into after this is the fact that Iron Man overloads this film is kind of sad. I like what they do. It finishes the narrative off. It makes sense from a writing standpoint. But it interrupts the flow. It finishes the narrative, but it affects a bit of the story. A bit of it. But you can still have a good experience. Finally is the villain. Now, the villain is the only issue I have with this character is he's still tied back to Iron Man. What made Vulture unique is, yes, he was tied to Iron Man, but it wasn't his defining trait. Like, some of the villains, yes, them being evil was defining trait. Like, in the first Spider-Man, in the first 2 films, it was good man turned bad. In the third film, it was a good man, it was a decent man trying to make a good living turned bad. And then for Venom, a sort of bad man trying to good living. And then the Amazing Spider-Man, same thing. Amazing Spider-Man 2, sort of the same thing. They tried and did this, and they had some other motivation behind them. So, in my opinion, it was alright, in my opinion, that they've done it again. But I liked how Vulture did it unique, where Iron Man he hated was one of his motivations, but not the main point of it. It wasn't Iron. Yes, whilst I wasn't really that disappointed Iron Man was the focus of his villainy. It was unique that I liked that he was doing it for his family. He wasn't being evil just to be, I'm evil. I am evil. I'm just being evil to be evil. He wasn't doing it just to be evil. He wasn't doing it to be a bad guy. He was doing it to help his family. And I respect that with his character. And I find that so unique. And this one with Mysterio, he doesn't have any personal connection. He doesn't have any personal issue. It's just, yeah. And the fact that this is finally a movie where we don't need a personal connection to main Peter of the MCU. We don't need that with the next movie. None of them have a personal connection. Only a few of them do, but nonetheless, continuing on, yeah, the villain just felt weak a bit with Iron Man being his focus again. I felt like they just rehashed the plotline I didn't really want to see. But yeah, I didn't mind it. And thank God they didn't make Peter the next Spider-Man, Iron Man. They just kept him Spider-Man. And yeah, he stepped up, but luckily he stepped up into his own hero. And yep, that was all for the film. So yeah, and what do I give this overall rating? What did I think of it? Well, I give it an 8 out of 10. Like I said, 1 point for the casting, 2 points for the acting, 3 action scenes, MJ and Peter, the ending, the snap, Iron Man, and the villain. Even though that stuff was in the middle, a bunch of other stuff, concluding this to be 8 out of 10 is what I love. I'm not going to give it a 10 out of 10 in my opinion. No offense, remember, this is my opinion. And for those who haven't seen it, just go watch it already. It's been out for like 2 years. But yeah, I've enjoyed the film personally, and I saw this in July, and I've seen it 3 times. Not as much. I've seen the Raimi films over 50 times. I've seen all 3 Raimi films over 50. I've lost track. Even the Amazing Spider-Man films, I've seen those a lot of times too. Homecoming a lot of times. The MCU movies, each one of them a lot of times and varies. But yeah, and then Into the Spider-Verse, quite a few times actually. No Way Home, only twice so far. Venom Let There Be Carnage once, and Venom only once. I've only watched the Venom films once. This film I've only watched 3 times, once in cinemas and twice on, second time I was on TV, third time I was on YouTube. Like it was a compilation of clips stuff together to make the full movie. But yeah, 8 out of 10 is what the film gets, and I'll make sure to see you guys here for the next review, which is Venom Let There Be Carnage, released in 2021. Okay? Make sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you don't miss any Movie Master content. Okay? Bye, people. Where's the Marvel Comics logo? There it is. Ba-boom.